Bullying is a serious problem that affects many friendships and communities. Over the years, bullying has taken many forms, from teasing and name-calling to cyberbullying on social media. It has a long history, often arising from misunderstandings, fear, or the need for power. One key group involved in this issue is young people, particularly in schools where friendships are formed and sometimes torn apart by cruel words and actions. Bullying matters today because it can have lasting effects on mental health, self-esteem, and relationships among friends. Many personal stories illustrate the pain of bullying. For instance, a boy named Jake in his sixth grade class felt lonely and anxious because others called him names. He wanted to fit in and make friends, but every time he tried, he was pushed away or laughed at, making him feel worthless. Sadly, events in the news show that bullying can lead to serious problems, sometimes even causing harm to those involved. It is not just a school problem. It's a community issue that needs our attention. Communities facing bullying struggle to support victims and educate those who bully. Parents often worry about their children's safety and happiness, while teachers work hard to create a safe environment for learning. By talking about bullying openly, we honor the brave individuals who share their stories, hoping others will see they are not alone. This is a call to understand the importance of kindness and support, allowing friendships to blossom instead of breaking them apart. Together, we can build a better future, one where support and friendship thrive over fear and pain. As bullying continued, Jake's struggles deepened. Every day, he walked into school with a heavy heart, wondering if today would be better. But he often found himself facing the same whispers and snickers. The root of bullying often lies in a complex mix of fear, insecurity, and the need to belong. Some bullies feel they gain power by making others feel weak. This cycle of pain and dominance benefits the bullies temporarily, but harms the victims deeply. In schools, policies can sometimes overlook the realities of bullying. Administrators might believe that punishment is the only answer. They may not see that deeper conversations about feelings could make a bigger difference. These systems often fail to help students like Jake. At home, Jake's parents worked hard, but they, too, struggled with understanding how to help him. They thought he just needed to be tough. But that advice only made Jake feel more alone, sinking further into self-doubt and sadness. In the lunchroom, Jake sat by himself, looking at his food. He watched groups of kids laughing and sharing stories. Each laugh felt like a reminder of his isolation. One day, a group of girls nearby caught his gaze. They were talking about a girl named Mia who had just moved to their town. Mia was new and had her own struggles, adjusting to a new school. Instead of making friends, she too found herself the target of teasing. The girls said unkind things about Mia's clothes and her accent, not realizing that everyone has their own battles to face. In this moment, Jake felt a spark of empathy. Maybe it was time for him to speak up for someone else. People often suffer when these unfair systems remain unchallenged. Victims like Jake and Mia carry their pain silently, struggling to share their experiences with others. Families often feel helpless, unsure of what steps to take when they hear about bullying happening to their children. Teachers and staff may not have the training to handle these sensitive situations properly, feeling lost between maintaining school order and creating an understanding space. Without proper guidance, they might resort to half-hearted solutions or ignore the issue, allowing it to grow deeper. In a neighboring town, a boy named Ethan faced similar challenges. He was shy and avoided sports, preferring to read books during lunch. However, bullies picked on him for being different. At first, he tried to show confidence, but as the weeks passed by, the laughter became more hurtful. Eventually, Ethan decided to stop going to school. He questioned if teachers or friends would even care if he was there. This shows how the ripple effect of bullying can lead to a vicious cycle, where both victims and witnesses feel hopeless. Empathy can grow in the toughest situations, and it started growing in Jake's heart. He thought about finding the courage to help Mia, just as he wished someone would help him. Realizing others were hurting too could be the first step toward creating a support system for everyone struggling. The world can feel lonely, but finding shared experiences, speaking up, or simply standing together against bullying might transform their stories from painful episodes into uplifting triumphs. Jake began to see that small acts of kindness and understanding could, perhaps, make a difference in the lives of others and, ultimately, in his own. As Jake began to feel more empowered, he realized that confronting bullying was not just about his experience. It was about changing the culture in his school and beyond. However, many obstacles stood in the way of this change. Some adults felt that bullying was just a normal part of growing up, believing that children should toughen up. This mindset created resistance to any efforts aimed at tackling the issue seriously. Social forces, like peer pressure and fear of being seen as a snitch, also made kids hesitant to speak out against their classmates. In Jake's school, a few teachers recognized this cycle of hurt and started pushing for change. Ms. Ramirez, the guidance counselor, had a passionate belief that kindness and understanding could create a safe space for students. She organized small workshops to help students express their feelings about bullying. Ms. Ramirez explained that everyone deserves respect, no matter what. She encouraged kids to share their stories and connect with one another. However, despite her good intentions, Ms. Ramirez faced resistance from some school administrators, who worried that these workshops would take time away from learning. Nearby, more schools were beginning to take notice of the growing bullying problem and were trying to adopt more positive environments. They introduced peer support programs, where students would act as buddies for those feeling isolated or bullied. But even these programs faced challenges. Some students looked at this change with skepticism, thinking it would not make a difference. Those doubts often echoed back into the hallways, creating uncertainties for everyone wanting to help. Amid this backdrop of learning and growing, a local expert named Dr. Lewis came to speak at Jake's school. Dr. Lewis was a psychologist who specialized in childhood behavior. He explained that bullying tends to happen in environments where kids feel unsafe or unappreciated. The main solution he recommended was to build a culture of kindness. By emphasizing respect, sharing feelings, and forming supportive friendships, students could create a more positive atmosphere. Dr. Lewis suggested realistic techniques like role-playing exercises during class and having open discussions about bullying. Students could practice how to respond to bullying situations, both as victims and as bystanders. He discussed how setting up anti-bullying campaigns could encourage everyone to join in the effort. While Dr. Lewis's ideas were well received by many, some skeptics wondered if they would really work in the long run. Fortunately, as these discussions continued, students started to come together. Jake recognized that he could lend his growing confidence to the cause. He invited Mia to join Ms. Ramirez's workshops, giving her a place to express her feelings. Together, they spoke out at a school meeting, asking for more support from adults in their lives. Slowly but surely, other students began to join them. Some classmates, initially indifferent to the idea of change, started to take notice of the group's enthusiasm. Friends who formerly turned a blind eye to bullying began creating flyers and posters promoting kindness. Jake's heart swelled with hope because, for the first time, he saw students rallying around each other. Small victories, like creating a positive atmosphere in the hallways, made a real difference. Although there were noticeable challenges in addressing bullying, Jake now had allies who believed in kindness, understanding, and making things better for everyone. With new friendships blossoming and the support of Dr. Lewis and Ms. Ramirez, Jake felt more confident in taking a stand. Little by little, he understood that change often starts small, but can grow into something powerful when people come together for a shared mission. The moment of truth arrived for Jake and his friends when a new incident rocked their school community. It started with a viral video that captured a group of students relentlessly teasing Ethan during lunch. When the footage appeared online, it went viral quickly, generating shock and outrage both in and out of school. Everyone, including parents, teachers, and even local news, began to pay attention. What once felt like a hidden problem turned into a spotlight, bringing bullying discussions to the forefront of the community. As the video spread, Jake felt a wave of emotions, fear for Ethan and anger at the bullies. He understood that the incident provided a crucial turning point. While many felt horrified, others began to argue that bullying was merely a part of school life that should be accepted. The debate raged. Some voices called for more significant initiatives to stop bullying, while others dismissed it, believing the reactions were overblown. The media, intrigued by this school's struggle, reported on the incident extensively. They highlighted stories of students who had faced similar experiences, which allowed many voices to surface at once. Alongside this growing media attention, social media users jumped in, launching campaigns with hashtags like #StandUpAgainstBullying. Jake watched as students from schools all over the country started sharing their stories, amplifying the call for change. Media coverage transformed the issue from isolated events into a clear, collective problem. Public opinion began shifting, and more individuals recognized the need for an impactful conversation. Even influential figures joined the discussion, further pushing for schools to adopt stricter anti-bullying policies and engage in active dialogues about kindness. Despite the growing momentum for change, challenges persisted. Some influential individuals, who were afraid of damaging their reputations, resisted these policies. They argued that the video misrepresented the situation, insisting that the involved students were just having fun. Others who initially supported the movement out of shock began to backtrack. This contradiction confused everyone and left Jake feeling uncertain about the future of their efforts. During a pivotal school assembly, Ms. Ramirez had the difficult task of addressing the bullying incident. She shared her deep concern, but also stressed how each individual had the power to change things. However, she acknowledged that speaking out had its risks. Not everyone was willing to take that step, and this divided view created ongoing tension between those who wanted to see real change and those who felt intimidated. As Jake and Mia took their places in front of their peers during the assembly, they felt a mixture of fear and determination. They shared their experiences, expressing how hurtful comments and actions could deeply scar someone. Their vulnerability resonated with their fellow students, inspiring a shift in the conversation. Slowly, their peers began to see the human side of bullying, no longer portraying it as merely playful behavior, but acknowledging the pain it caused. The feelings of frustration, fear, and courage came together at that moment, making it truly a time of transformation. The collective voice of students, stirred by the social media campaigns and media coverage, seemed to finally echo across the halls of their school. Everyone felt the urgency to choose kindness over cruelty, and Jake realized that even amid opposition, their efforts were gradually making a difference. Though serious challenges lay ahead, this powerful moment brought a sense of unity among Jake and his friends. They understood that taking a stand was necessary. The intensity of this pivotal challenge fueled their hope and determination, paving the way for more significant progress in the fight against bullying. In that whirlwind of fear transforming into resolve, they began to visualize a better world, one where every student could feel safe and respected. As the discussions around bullying intensified, tensions ran high within the school community. Days after the assembly, news of a planned student protest against bullying spread quickly. Students were passionate and wanted to stand up for their peers, but some also felt anxious about speaking out. The day of the protest arrived, filled with nervous excitement. Students flocked together, holding up signs urging for kindness and support, but the atmosphere was fraught with anticipation. Amid the crowd, Jake's heart raced as he stood alongside Mia, Ethan, and others. They felt this protest was their chance to show that their voices truly mattered. But just before they could begin, a group of students known for their bullying threatened to disrupt the event. They did not want the focus taken off of their actions, refusing to feel pressured by the emerging calls for change. Tensions boiled over when they began to shout hurtful remarks at the protesters, hoping to silence their voices. In that moment, Jake felt a surge of fear and adrenaline. He remembered Ethan, who had been so hurt by these bullies, and knew that the protest was bigger than just one group of students. It represented a fight for every student to feel safe. With his heart pounding, Jake stepped forward, urging the protesters to stand strong. The air was thick with emotion as voices clashed. The struggle between fear and courage played out right in front of everyone. In an unexpected move, instead of retaliating with harsh words, Jake called for everyone to share their stories. Mia and Ethan both stepped forward and spoke about their pain and experiences, giving voice to the hurt behind the laughter. Their honesty shifted the atmosphere. Slowly, other students, even those who had been resistant to change, began to listen. This moment of vulnerability turned the tide. Instead of aggression taking over, a powerful sense of unity emerged among those in attendance. Outside the school, the protests drew attention from local media. Cameras captured the heartbreaking stories shared by vulnerable students. This coverage amplified the efforts and emotions displayed at the protest. News outlets reported on bullying's damaging effects, shifting public opinion toward recognizing the urgent need for genuine change. Parents began discussing this issue at home, amplifying calls for leaders to act. Societal reaction surged. Local community leaders and school board members assessed what was happening on the ground, inspired by the courage displayed by the students. They realized that they must take responsibility for creating an environment that fostered respect and kindness. The mayor even announced plans for new anti-bullying policies to be implemented in schools. This shift not only showed the power of student voices, but also began to break down the walls of indifference that had long protected bullying behavior. However, not everyone reacted positively. Some critics claimed that the protests were unnecessary, arguing that kids should learn to toughen up. This clash of ideologies solidified a divide, but for Jake and his friends, the focus remained clear. They were making their voices heard, and they would no longer remain silent. As tension between old attitudes and new perspectives escalated, the once quiet victims began to rise. They found strength in their collective experiences and speaking out, even if it felt daunting. This moment crystallized their resolve. Jake's heart filled with hope. He realized this breaking point was not just a culmination of their struggle, but a birth of new courage and insight. With every voice that joined the protest, they were shifting the power dynamics in their favor. They began to see the possibility of a future where kindness and support replace fear and hurt, and this spark of change promised to grow brighter in the days to come. After the protest, Jake and his friends shared a mix of emotions. The energy from the event lingered, but so did the realities they faced at school. They gathered in the library to discuss what had happened. Mia looked thoughtful as she expressed how surprising it was to realize how many people cared about the issue of bullying. "It feels different now," she said, "but we know this fight is far from over." Jake nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The protest was powerful, but change needed consistent effort. Ethan reflected on how the moment had opened his eyes. Before that day, he had felt so alone. Now, he saw that many students shared in this struggle. "We must keep talking about our experiences," he said. "If we can keep that dialogue open," he added, "people will understand and can join our fight even more." Their reflections highlighted how powerful their voices had been together. As the days passed, the immediate energy of the protest faded into a new kind of determination. More students began to step forward, sharing their stories with kindness and support. Not everyone was on board, however. There were still students who whispered hurtful things, trying to hold on to old patterns. These bullies didn't give up easily. But Jake, Mia, and Ethan remembered the strength they felt during the protest. This deepened their resolve to speak out against bullying whenever it reared its ugly head. During a school assembly organized by Ms. Ramirez, students showcased their commitment to change. They shared their ideas on creating support groups, where those experiencing bullying could come together in a safe space. It was an invitation for understanding, not just talk. It wasn't just about saying no to bullying, but about saying yes to inclusion and friendship. The room resonated with clapping as students envisioned a better culture at school. Amid the shifts in conversations, community leaders began mobilizing. They listened to the students, urging schools to adopt stronger anti-bullying policies. They examined the possibility of implementing restorative justice programs, which focus on healing rather than punishment. This encouraged perpetrators to understand the impact of their actions better. Jake felt hope at the opportunity for change, believing it could pave the way for colorful, welcoming hallways filled with friendship. But challenges remained. Not everyone embraced the idea of new policies. Some believed that recognizing victims and creating rules would make schools too soft. Jake felt frustrated when he heard these words. Still, he remembered the power of the protest. He believed they had a voice worth hearing, so he organized another meeting where students, parents, and teachers discussed moving forward. It was a way to address fears openly and offer clarity on what new policies meant for everyone. From their enormous effort, clear lessons emerged. The most significant was the understanding that change takes time and commitment. Day by day, the discussions about bullying in their classrooms became more normalized. Jake, Mia, and Ethan discovered that every small action counted, from speaking out to encouraging someone feeling isolated. Ultimately, this turning point was not only about addressing bullying but creating a shift in school culture. The seeds planted in the hearts of students counted, and Jake realized their journey wasn't merely about the struggles they faced, but also about fostering resilience through shared experiences. The aftereffects would help guide their community's path forward. There was no turning back. They were ready for the challenges ahead. Together, they began to envision a school where kindness overshadowed pain, filing away the bitterness and embracing a brighter tomorrow. In the weeks following the protest, a wave of change rippled through the school and the larger community. Students began to feel more empowered to speak out against bullying, and many expressive artwork pieces hung in the hallways, displaying messages of kindness and acceptance. Teachers held discussions on how they could create a positive learning environment, ensuring that every student felt valued. The atmosphere gradually transformed from one of silence to laughter, and the feeling of support resonated everywhere. However, change was not without its challenges. Certain groups in the school showed signs of resistance. Some students who had previously bullied others felt threatened by the new focus on kindness. They stood on the sidelines, sharing whispers among friends, trying to downplay the significance of the changes. The school administration recognized the need to address these feelings openly. Organizing a meeting for parents and students, they facilitated honest discussions about how to handle lingering issues. Many parents were eager to learn from their children about the changes in school. They were surprised to discover how deep the issues went and expressed remorse for not having engaged sooner. Local community leaders also sensed the need to turn the tide. They regarded the protest as a crucial moment and engaged in supportive conversations about schools implementing comprehensive anti-bullying policies. These conversations inspired government officials to draft new guidelines, informing schools on working through bullying situations more holistically. Meanwhile, Ms. Ramirez took initiative by leading workshops for teachers, focusing on how to recognize signs of bullying in their classrooms. They learned ways to intervene compassionately, motivating students to practice empathy and better communication. Schools started modernizing their approach, incorporating lessons not only on respecting one another, but also on bravery and solidarity. In classrooms, Jake's group launched a peer support program, where trained students provided volunteers to help those feeling isolated. This created a bridge for friendships and understanding, as students participated in team-building activities that highlighted cooperation and acceptance. As newly formed friendships blossomed, students learned to work together and cultivate a sense of belonging. Yet, despite these efforts, visible challenges persisted. Jake noticed some of their classmates seemed reluctant to let go of old behavior patterns. A few individuals continued to spread rumors and exhibit hostility. Although new training programs aimed at establishing healthy dialogues directly addressed these worries, real change required consistent dedication. The community rallied together, realizing that compassion started at home. Parents held events where families could reflect on kindness, using games and discussions to teach children about empathy. These gatherings sparked conversations that reached beyond school. Families learned the importance of listening, understanding their child's feelings, and reinforcing values against bullying. In the aftermath, the local news covered stories highlighting the ongoing efforts in schools to create safer environments. Positive attention drew even more engagement from the community. More students joined anti-bullying clubs, buzzing with excitement about brainstorming new ideas to spread kindness further. Amid the lingering challenges, Jake, Mia, and Ethan held on to the hope that their community was evolving into a better, kinder place. They learned the depth of strength comes not only from standing together in protest, but from anchoring true values of respect and unity in everyday lives. Gradually, positive interactions began overshadowing the older negative dynamics. With each small win, they felt reassured, a sign that the tapestry of their community was beginning to weave back together, one thread of kindness at a time. As the dust began to settle from the intense moments of change, the community started to see lasting changes in both attitudes and behaviors. Schools began to take bullying seriously, incorporating new anti-bullying policies openly in conversations. Students felt encouraged to speak up about their feelings, transforming the school into a more supportive environment. Classmates no longer looked the other way when someone was bullied. Instead, they stepped in to help, echoing the lessons learned from Jake's journey. Many teachers adopted new methods of teaching that emphasized understanding and cooperation. They no longer merely lectured about kindness. They engaged students through interactive lessons about respect and empathy. This shift not only changed classroom dynamics, but sparked connections among students who might have never spoken before. Schools worked together with parents to host workshops on handling bullying and fostering a culture of kindness at home and school. Communities adapted as well, building bridges of awareness around the deeper issues. Parents began discussing how their words and actions influenced their children's behavior. Homes became spaces where empathy was taught along with responsibilities. More families signed up for community events that focused on kindness and inclusion, fostering relationships between folks from different backgrounds. It was heartening to see neighborhoods working together to enrich their children's lives and reduce toxic behaviors. However, ongoing debates continued to rise. Some individuals expressed concerns that the strongest anti-bullying policies might invade personal freedoms, worried that actions might lead to needless punishments instead of understanding. These fears created rifts among parents in community meetings. Some voiced the importance of letting kids figure things out, while others stressed the significance of consistent support. Capturing the balance between discipline and understanding became a central topic at school board meetings. New issues also emerged amidst these changes. With more awareness about bullying, students started to talk about related topics like mental health and anxiety. Kids who remained silent about their struggles felt encouraged to open up, revealing issues beyond bullying experiences. This shift highlighted the demands on schools to broaden their support services to include counseling and peer support groups focused on mental well-being, not just dealing with bullying reactions. Jake, Mia, and Ethan found themselves deeply involved in these discussions. They organized meetings where students could come together to share their concerns on mental health while ensuring futures without bullying. They knew their voices had power and were passionate about supporting others through tough times. Their appearances at leadership gatherings gave rise to student-led initiatives focused on mental health advocacy, promoting open conversations about feeling isolated, stressed, or anxious. While all these new changes poured hope into the community, it was clear there were several layers of unresolved tension. The balance of policies had to be maintained carefully as schools moved forward, ensuring that they upheld their protective measures without stifling imaginations and experiences. Communication remained crucial. Classes held discussions regularly, creating channels for students to voice how these new policies made them feel. Surprisingly, the intense focus on bullying revealed even deeper relationships among individuals. Students who had been unseen began to foster friendships as they connected through shared experiences. Bonds formed over the joint commitment to generating positivity brought a sense of unity that had been absent before. Society made actionable strides, but challenges remained. Dealing with the complexities of previous issues shone a light on underlying needs, generating both momentum and deeper questions. The community was dedicating itself to tackle long-standing societal myths while adjusting to the evolving perspectives on kindness and mental wellness in children. Through it all, Jake and his friends taught others that empathy begins with understanding ourselves and each other. Their journey reflected hope, demonstrating that, while problems may arise, working together created stronger individuals and communities that envisaged a harmonious future. They believed in a world where every voice mattered, and every action led to the greater good, fostering an environment where kindness was a foundation for growth. Each day continued building upon their hard-fought efforts, reminding everyone that together, they could create lasting change. As Jake, Mia, and Ethan reflected on their journey, it was clear they had made a significant impact on their school and community. The movement to address bullying had grown beyond their initial protests. It transformed into a sustained effort for change. Students no longer felt alone in their struggles, knowing they could share their experiences and that a community was there to listen. The school introduced regular emotional well-being workshops that encouraged resilience, self-expression, and empathy among peers, allowing students to flourish in a supportive environment. Looking ahead, Jake envisioned a future where schools prioritized mental health alongside academics. It was crucial to develop long-term initiatives focused on awareness and education around bullying, recognizing that these issues do not resolve overnight. Training for teachers on emotional intelligence and supportive responses would equip them to handle challenges effectively and thoughtfully. Programs rooted in open dialogues, allowing students to express their feelings and discuss diverse challenges, could prevent situations from escalating in the first place. In these moments of connection, students learned effective conflict resolution skills, which fostered a culture of respect. As peer support networks grew stronger, friends would rally behind one another, ensuring that no one experienced the pain, isolation, or anxiety that bullying so often brings. This created a ripple effect. Kindness became contagious, inspiring students to uplift each other consistently. Beyond their immediate friends and school, the movement's influence spread into the broader community. Parents became more involved, attending workshops and discussing how to model kindness and encouragement at home. They began to cultivate open lines of communication with their children, making it easier to address any issues before they escalated into bullying. The conversations ignited in schools reached neighborhoods, planting seeds for a more compassionate society where emotional health was as valued as academic achievement. As understanding of bullying expanded, conversations about mental health intertwined with discussions about educational policies. Schools began to advocate for reforms that incorporated social-emotional learning across all grades. They saw that the more equipped children were in understanding their emotions and managing relationships, the less likely they were to engage in harmful behaviors. Jake, Mia, and Ethan found purpose as young leaders in their community, inspiring their peers and the people around them to envision a brighter future. They proposed new initiatives every school year that included community events promoting kindness, service projects to help others, or even simply creating spaces where students could talk openly without fear of judgment. By establishing these traditions, they ingrained the spirit of compassion into the fabric of their school. Importantly, individuals began to realize that promoting understanding did not just rest on the shoulders of teachers and parents. It welcomed everyone. Students learned that speaking out was vital, whether they were confronting a situation, supporting a friend, or contributing solutions during discussions. No one needed to face challenges alone, and everyone had a role to play in building a positive environment. This movement inspired many other schools to adopt similar practices, demonstrating that when one community stands up to bullying, it can create a larger movement for change. Grassroots efforts spread like wildfire, as students used social media platforms to share their positive stories and urge others to take action. The lessons learned from Jake's journey didn't simply reside within their school walls. They influenced broader societal views on kindness, respect, and understanding. Individuals realized they had the power to challenge bullying and stigma around mental health, pushing the efficacy of social and economic policies toward a healthier environment for all. Reflection revealed that addressing such layered issues benefited everyone, creating a more engaged, resilient, and compassionate society. As they looked towards the future, Jake, Mia, and Ethan felt a swell of hope. They recognized their journey, filled with struggle, growth, and courage, was just the start. The commitment to kindness would continue, paving the way for individuals to feel safe, heard, and valued as they shaped their personal paths. With every act of compassion sewn into their community's fabric, the story transformed into an ongoing narrative of progress, reminding everyone that change begins with one small voice daring to stand up for what's right.